do it like a sort of almost TV announcer. So you say who you are and who you're interviewing, what this is for.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start. Is everybody ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So I'm Jasmina Cuevas. This is for my media history class, and we are interviewing Brandon, aka Scoop B Robinson. He is a well-known sports journalist. He also has his own podcast, and I mean, besides sports, he writes about multiple other subjects: music, fashion. He's been in fashion himself. So I'm going to introduce Brandon, and he can just give you a brief description of himself and what he does right now. Brandon?
Hey everybody, is that my cue like Susie to start talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
She said be like a broadcaster. So I am Brandon Robinson. I am a sports and entertainment journalist. Started in the business at 12 years old. I had a kids radio show with the Nets called Nets Slammin' Planet. When I was a kid, it was broadcast on New York radio. I've always known what I wanted to do. My mom got me in public speaking early, and kind of just I came out the womb talking, as people describe it. So I knew my purpose in life. I knew what I wanted to do, and I actually started in journalism. I started getting interested in journalism. I used to watch 60 Minutes on Sundays with my mom. I used to get the newspaper after church, and I used to watch 60 Minutes with my mom. I used to enjoy interviews that Ed Bradley did. I used to enjoy I got to do it in his voice. He would say, why? Just the why. I feel like the why is such a powerful word that gets so much attention. And so journalism is something I've always wanted to do, something I pursued. Sports was my beginning, but when you graduate grad school and you're trying to keep the lights on, you realize something your mom taught you early on. Life is bigger than just basketball. And, kind of got me into entertainment, got me into music, got me into... I think it's so cool that you're on Hangouts in your car, by the way. But it got me into other things. And here I am now. Glad that Jasmina had me, and it's pretty cool to chat with all of you, even the professor with the cool accent.
Well, the idea is this is an online class, and apart from learning about media, we're also using it and learning to use it. But Jasmina and Jason are going to be the two students interviewing you.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I will kick off. Thanks, Brandon, for giving everybody a brief description of who you are.
Yes, ma'am.
So as you said, you've been in the journalism world and, journalism as a whole, broadcasting, writing, you've been doing it for quite some time, and you started out at the young age of, you said 12, correct?
Well, yes.
So you've been in journalism since then. How do you feel sports journalism has evolved since you started?
I think the only person in sports that was paying attention to a brand or brands was Michael Jordan. When you look at what Michael Jordan did, if you take a look back to the 97-98 season, Michael Jordan did something very innovative. He separated the Michael Jordan sneaker line that he wore, numbers 1 through 20 or whatever it was. I know there's some sneakerheads on here. He separated that and made the Jordan brand. And so there you had guys like Vin Baker, Eddie Jones, Derek Jeter, Roy Jones Jr., who all were part of the Jordan brand. It's almost like if you were a recruit at a college, you represented a brand, so you were different. Michael Jordan comes with a prestige. So I think now you see a lot of other guys carry on that moniker, if you will, a brand. Everybody talks about brand. Some people think they're a brand, and they damn sure are not a brand, but that's a different story. But I think that the issue of brands has definitely played a big part. Social media, obviously, Twitter, the way that stories are being broken. If you pay attention to a report today, Adrian Bronner broke his own news. He talked about the fact that he wants to commit suicide via his Instagram. He's saying he's going to do it at 3 o'clock. I don't know if that's 3 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock in Dubai. But the ability for athletes to break news themselves and not needing a reporter to do it has also paid dividends. So, I mean, those are some of the things that I noticed. And I think that now athletes have their guy. You saw that with Michael Jordan. Ahmad Rashad was his guy. Now every athlete has their guy.
Cool. Very nice. By the way, I'm Jason Brandon. I'm Jasmina's partner.
What's going on, OG?
What's going on, brother? Pleasure to meet you. And again, thanks for spending some time with us right now. Our second question for you was, how was it to transition from live broadcasting to print to now podcast?
I think for me, I mean, I guess technically I went from radio as a kid to print to podcast. And in between did video or TV features. So I think the radio aspect, radio is my foundation. Having just completed Brown and Scoop, which was on CBS Radio for a year, and I'm in talks actually with CBS for a new podcast. You guys heard it first. The ability to go back to radio, my radio roots, was cool. But what added was the relationships that I built to actually put them in that platform. I think a lot of times people want to be seen on TV, people want to be seen or heard on radio, but they want to be in the studio. I kind of feel like it's, some of our parents, for example, tell us you shouldn't have sex before marriage. Well, I feel like you shouldn't be in the studio without being in the field first. I think that when you're in the field and you develop relationships, that gives you the ability to carry those subjects into the studio. So I think that element carries, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's to the moon. I think relationships with people are so important. That's how you get sources. That's how you quote sources. And I think that's you have to develop those fundamentals in whatever you do. So I think TV is almost like the icing on the cake. The fact that you're in the field, and the fact you are a historian. You're telling what you know from being in your environment. So I think that all of those things have a journalism element. It's just recognizing that on TV you don't have to tell the viewer that they're wearing a yellow jacket, but on radio you do.
Gotcha.
Great. Okay. And I mean, you mentioned building relationships, and you also mentioned the aspect of social media. So nowadays, as a journalist yourself, people don't really need to leave their homes to do what they want to do. So
hello.
What's your take on journalism and technology nowadays and how it's changed so much?
Well, I'll tell you something. I think that what makes journalism cool is, when you guys take those drives, like on the highway, like say you're on the New Jersey Turnpike and you're like on exit 7, you're going to Philly. You stop at that rest stop, that Roy Rogers rest stop. You see like those donuts or that piece of chicken and it has that light on it, and it makes that noise. I feel like where we are now, we have to advertise and sell what we're doing. So like I feel like it's like, hey, read me, click on the bio, read it. Like you have to create that illusion that it's worth clicking, because everybody has clickbait these days, and unfortunately, I feel like certain things are dumbed down. But I'll tell you, my experience as a journalist is great, but my experience in sales as a kid, my family were entrepreneurs. They owned a shoe store in Harlem. I remember, I go back to the days when my uncle would wrap shoes and put certain things on display in a window. You have to think how the consumer thinks. So I think the fact that you have social media to supplement that, I mean, there's pretty ladies that are in this chat. More people are likely to click if they see a picture of a pretty lady smiling, if you tell them to click on the bio. I just think you have to know how to sell as much as tell a story.
Great. Wonderful.
Very quickly, Jasmina, can you send an invite to Louis? I just send it to you in the chat. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, I'm sending it now.
Should we pause for Louis or keep going?
No. He's gonna just join us, just like Ludwig did.
Okay. So this kind of flows into what you just got finished saying, but it's kind of on a different aspect, Brandon. Since digital media has evolved so rapidly and everything is at the source of our fingertips nowadays, how do you think it has affected journalism?
Like, you guys know that song by Designer, Panda? There's a lot of credit cards for the scammers out there. And a lot of people who say they are what they are, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think the true test of time is, I think, the ability to tell a story, the ability to pay attention to the narrative, and a strong lead in your story. A guy that I know in the business once told me, I think 2 years ago, and it all made sense to me, that cathartic moment. In order to get somebody to read the story, your lead is what draws people in. But if you think about the lead is nothing more than I mean, listen, we like to spend money efficiently. You go to Fridays or you go to Chili's, you want that 2 for 20, right? Uh, but the appetizer is what's going to draw people in. If the appetizer is whack, you leave it. But if you get the appetizer, you like what you have. I mean, I like quesadillas. I like chips and guac. So if you like that, then you're apt to buy more drinks. You're apt to, sit at the bar and watch, Monday Night Football. So that means you're going to get the burger or the chicken fingers, and then you're going to stay for the mudslide dessert. Your lead is the appetizer. If you have a good appetizer, I hope I'm not making people hungry, but if you have a good appetizer, you're going to stay and read the lead is going to allow people to read the whole story because I feel like our attention spans are smaller and smaller. So I think the test of time is the people's ability to be a student of your craft. I'm very big on being a student of your craft. Like you can have the flair, you can have the thing that people like, but if you don't have that fundamentally sound thing first, it doesn't matter what else people are doing on social media. It doesn't matter if you get retweets. Hell, you could buy fake likes. It doesn't matter if your stuff is not engaging.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. What you said has to do with just about anything you put your mind to or do.
Yeah,
That's pretty real right there, man.
I think from a sports perspective, I don't think Tim Duncan got the credit that he was due as one of the top power forwards in the NBA. I equate his career to a bowl of oatmeal. It's boring, but it keeps you full till lunchtime. And I think at the end of the day, like efficient is what matters. It doesn't matter if you can create words. It doesn't matter if you're fancy and flamboyant. Like it's like a pretty girl with a big butt. Like so what? Everybody has that now. Some buy it, some have it. At the end of the day, it's about the body of work and what you put in.
Yeah.
Great.
And being practical.
This is true. So as journalism evolves, how do you keep up with the times as a sports journalist?
I think that I look at sports and I look at sports as entertainment and entertainment is news, and so does the industry now. I think it's all just one big cluster, insert the word. I think that, and I think Complex is a testament to that. I like Complex because I think Complex is MTV and BET and Vanity Fair in one, but I think we've come to a point where, what is it? Kylie Jenner was it? That's like I saw it on Snapchat is naked. Was it her that was posing nude or something like that the other day?
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't disappointed, but I think at the same time, like that's news now. Kim Kardashian or Kanye West stopping a concert because Kim Kardashian was robbed in Paris. I think people deem that as news now. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and their debate, and Donald Trump thinking that Hillary should be jailed. That's where I think entertainment and news collide now. And the fact that Donald Trump, who was a very successful businessman, is now running for president. That's the only thing he can't add on his resume. The fact that he comes from the entertainment world and going into politics, I think that's where we are as a nation. It's collided. Wherever the defense side of the fence you are politically, all those things equate news now. And so we all know what's news and what's not, but it's entertainment, sports, and everything else is what drives views, clicks, etc. So.
Great, wonderful.
All right. Last but not least, our final question for you, Brandon, is what piece of advice would you give like a up and coming journalist or someone who's into being a journalist?
Stay true to you. I think a lot of times people run the rat race of what they see. And I think that you have to think 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, and also not be so dependent upon whether or not somebody's going to give you a job. I think when I finished grad school, I went through personal things. I had death in my family. In addition, people weren't hiring me. And, I had some stops here and there. But I think one of the things that I appreciate is the journey, the fact that I didn't just stick to basketball. I went into fashion. I went into other sports besides basketball, football, hockey, soccer, lacrosse. But then I also, got a chance. I've covered the president 3 times. In addition to sports, I've participated myself in fashion shows because of this being out in the field. People are like, hey, you would be good for that because I like to dress. I think over time you have to immerse yourself in everything, even when you're young, because you'll never get that opportunity again. So while you're building and owning your craft, do that. And also write. Like I think a lot of times people want to be seen on TV. Write as much as you can because that's searchable on Google faster than your video is. And I think bigger than that, don't take no from somebody who's not qualified to tell you yes. I think that's another a gem there. And write how you talk. Don't write how you think people want to hear you talk.
I like what you just said about the no. I have to type that up. Can we quote you on that?
Okay. Don't. Ladies first.
Say it again.
Don't take no from someone that is not qualified to tell you yes. I feel like you're the bill collector. I'm talking to you with the headset.
Professor, you look like you about to play Call of Duty. That's what it looks like.
Gamer tag.
Well, thank you very much, Brandon. We greatly appreciate it. We definitely appreciate the advice. All of us are in different fields, but obviously it comes down to media, and we're taking this class because we're interested in media. So this definitely helps us. So we really appreciate you taking out the time out of your day to speak to us.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. If I can make a shameless plug.
Yes, you may.
Can you guys subscribe to Scoop B Radio on iTunes? You can also find it on Google Play, Stitcher, and you can go to scoopbradio.com. When you talk about diversity, I have a wide range of different interviews with different people. I have an interview that drops Thursday. Every Thursday, a new interview drops, dating back from my childhood all the way to present day. I have an interview with Pete Sampras, the tennis player, that drops tomorrow on Scoop B Radio. I've done everything from Jalen Rose, everybody in between. So.
Jasmina,
I've heard it myself.
Sorry, Jasmina, when you post the link to this, you can add a link to the website if you are able to catch that now, or just get it in writing. Can I make a little plug for our students who have been listening? If they have a question, do you have 2 minutes to get maybe any of their questions? I mean, that's all right. Great. Ludwig, Denise, Matthew, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You said you covered the president 3 times. How was that?
It was it was good. I mean, for me, I have to say that President Obama inspires me a lot, not just as an African American male, but as a guy who was counted out. I mean, I'm like Rocky Balboa. I just like an underdog story. Hello there.
What's going on, man?
I thought that was Joakim Noah for a second.
Oh, there's Louis. Hi.
Hello.
You're
this
out
is weird.
near the subway.
Nah, it's all good. No, I mean, it was cool to do because I think he's ahead of his time, and I don't think people will really realize his strengths until after he's gone.
Yeah.
We'll definitely miss him with what's going on now, man.
Yeah. Was the train really loud?
No, it was not loud.
Not because I have class by City Hall, and I think I'm up in the Bronx now. I think it's going to take me about an hour to get down there. All right, hang on. Let me charge this thing up.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Denise, did you want to say something?
Nice to meet you, Brandon. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Just talking about technology in general, where do you see, or do you have a vision of what the future will be in terms of, you said you started off with radio, and now we have all these different kinds of podcasts and different ways of getting the message out. Do you have a vision of the future?
Put it like this. I think when I went to grad school at Hofstra University, I graduated in 2011. And when I was taking a feature writing class, that feature writing class changed my life. I took that class in 2009. The professor said that You need to focus on followers, who's paying attention to you and your brand, because it's going to get to a point where it's not going to matter what publication you are. It's going to matter with who you are and your clicks. And the professor said you need to be efficient at what you do because people are basically going to be bouncing around. And what do you see now? You see everybody freelancing. You see there's no real full-time jobs. That goes along with the economic structure. You see that everybody's verified and people verified and verified and how many likes somebody gets. That being said, I remember when I did my grad thesis, we had to write something. We had to include video and podcast. This was in 2011. Now that's the norm. You're even writing a feature story for, let's say, Cosmopolitan. Moving forward, I think we're in an interesting space because I think that where we are now is where we were in 1999 when everybody was downloading music. People are trying to figure out a way to monetize all of this, which is why now you see streaming video services, which is why you see iTunes, which is why you see this. So I think moving forward, where we are right now, where everybody's trying to put stuff together, I think we're in a transition. More people go on the internet than they watch TV, particularly in in the millennial generation. I think people are trying to regulate things, and I think that in the next 5 years, you're going to see that convergence, where people are making more money and where people are going to be on.
How much? What kind of chocolates are these?
Fish crispy, caramel,
Sorry.
milk chocolate, and dark chocolate.
Go ahead and get that one right there.
Can you get us some ice cream too?
Oh, nice. Here you go.
Hey,
Thank you so much.
Putting yourself on mute, please.
Louis, can you mute your sound?
I don't know how.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
No, that's it. I mean, I just think where we are is still going to be the brand thing. I still think it's going to be the just people being called on to be experts. I think that's where we are.
Thank you. Interesting.
Great. Matthew, I know that you're on mute. Did you have any questions that you wanted me to ask Brandon for you? I'm just waiting. One of our classmates is at work.
I feel like you're the substitute. I'll wait.
Oh, he said no questions. Thanks for your time.
Okay. What about Louis?
I think he's on mute.
Louis on
Yeah.
mute.
All right. So it took me a while to get it back off mute. Wait. So what? Well, I'm sorry. What industry are you in? I came in kind of late.
I'm a sports and entertainment journalist. Cover everything from basketball, baseball, hip hop, pop culture, everything in between. I have written at Complex, CBS Radio, Vibe, and appeared pretty much everywhere. Pix 11, CBS This Morning. So
Okay. So you're a writer. You write.
Right and on camera and radio personality.
Okay.
He's one of those people that if you say if he says Google me, like you can actually Google him.
Okay.
He's actually somebody you can find.
Okay. How long ago have you been in the industry?
I started at 12 years old.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
What would you say that is the major change that you've seen when you first started it versus today?
The digital landscape, for sure. I think, obviously everything is online now. And I also think that millennials are beginning to sink their teeth into the field. And I think you're seeing older people not happy about it.
Like me?
Now you cool.
We're not old, Professor.
Your accent has swag. You cool with me. I don't have a problem with you.
Any other questions that anybody else has?
Yeah, I have one last question. Brandon, you said you covered sports also, and I believe about 2 weeks ago we had an accident with a pitcher who passed away. And I know as a journalist, at times, basically my question is the human factor of it. Has there been any stories that you've connected to that actually had you choked up on the air, or that you really, really felt connected to that was kind of hard to give to your audience?
I interviewed Nelson Mandela's daughters about a month before Nelson Mandela died. It was kind of in concurrence with the biopic that came out that Idris Elba was in. Interviewed those two, and I also interviewed Naomi Campbell, who was considered like almost like an honorary granddaughter. It was sad because after I originally, like as a freelance piece, pitched it to somewhere, and then they told me no, and then a month later they wanted it, like it was written already. And then after that happened, I just started talking to athletes about what Nelson Mandela meant to them, and I ended up talking to the boxer Zab Judah. I interviewed the boxer Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard Hopkins said, "I want to show you something." It was his phone. And his phone, the background screensaver, was a picture of Nelson Mandela with boxing gloves. Nelson Mandela used to be a semi-pro boxer. I never knew that. And he said that I had this in my phone before Mandela died. He said, Nelson Mandela meant so much to me because not only with, obviously, the whole apartheid issue in South Africa, but, he really was President Obama before President Obama and really had more adversity because he had to turn the other cheek and, was jailed for years. President Obama was never jailed. Nelson Mandela was. So, he really held him in high regard. And then also chatted with a guy named Olden Polynice, who's Haitian. And Olden Polynice was the first Haitian-born player to play in the NBA. And back in 1992, he forged a hunger strike while he was in season against the treatment of refugees in Guantanamo Bay. So for me, sports, as an adult, and you pay bills and everything, it's more than just the sport. It's the things that you learn along the way that make you more of a not just a commodity for your job, but makes you more of a human person or a person that's respected by corporate America, so they cut real checks and not fake checks. Let's keep it real. At the end of the day, you want to get paid and compensated for what you do, and when you can't be put into a box and you're able to relate to things outside of just what you know, it makes you more you're more utilized. I think even the relationship that I developed with the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, started his first year in the NBA when he took over for Commissioner Stern. I met him randomly at the Mothers of Professional Basketball Players Association brunch in New Orleans, and met him on the elevator. Took a picture with him. 2 months later, I'm front and center on national TV asking him questions about former Clipper owner Donald Sterling that everybody talked about, and that was when the world began to kind of recognize me for my work. So I mean, it's bigger than the sport. It's the fact that you can. It's almost like that moment where you can tie everything you've ever learned with the money you spent for school, and you're able to live within your purpose.
Great.
Sorry to ramble.
No, we're all taking notes. We all need this.
All right, Brandon, I got one last question. I'm sorry, I'm just very intrigued, and I love the information you're giving us. What's your I mean, you've mentioned right now the impact that social issues could have in sports. So I want to know what you think about the Colin Kaepernick situation and how he's handling it, and also what people are saying, because there's basically two sides of the coin: people who are for it and then people who are against it. So you, as a young journalist who's been in the field and has great experience, I want to know what's your take on it, and how the social issues are impacting sports right now.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, Louis. Can you mute yourself again, please?
You can mute Louis, Jasmina.
There we go. Go ahead.
I will say to you that first and foremost, if you're not doing anything on Saturday, if you guys have Verizon Fios cable, you can check me out on a show called And Another Thing on MeTV. It drops at 5:00 p.m. on Saturday, and I actually discussed the very Colin Kaepernick topic with a guy that's a regular on Fox News. What I said was essentially, you are entitled to the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. However, you are not protected from the consequences of your actions.
Mm.
And he entered in knowing that. As an African American male who does have to face maybe someone not as qualified as you getting the job that you wanted, or a security officer at a venue thinking you're part of the entourage, or you're not a member of the media because you're tall and big and black like the people you cover. You sense racism and discrimination every day. I think what I liked about what Colin Kaepernick did was that he was unapologetically afraid to be himself. The same people who cried when Muhammad Ali died were the same people that hated him when he refused to enter the war in Vietnam. I think, and I know this is live, but I have to say it, people in this world are very two-faced and full of shit. Because on one hand, you praise somebody who, was a hero, but at the same time, you dogged him when he was doing something that's different. For much as people want to say that they're different, a lot of people follow what other people do and are afraid to be different because they face or they're scared of what people may say about them. And I think Colin Kaepernick has done it, and you see a lot of people copycatting, which is kind of insincere in my opinion. I think people want to make the argument, well, he was raised by white parents, and from what I understand, he was adopted and raised by white parents, and I don't think that has anything to do with it, because when you look at him, you see a black man, or at least someone that has an ounce of African American blood in him. I think that people think that because athletes are rich, that they're supposed to shut up, and I think when you got a lot of money for endorsements, it made players shut up. I think Michael Jordan was very quiet and didn't get very political. But guys like Jim Brown and Bill Russell, who made less money than these guys make today, were outspoken, and they're the first to criticize people's actions. I think that until more people speak up, it'll be business as usual. But I also think it is not the job of an athlete to get into the realm of politics. I think that now that Colin Kaepernick has spoke up, people think that every athlete is supposed to have an opinion, and some people don't want to freely speak about it. So I don't think there's one answer. I think there's many answers, and I think the way that people decide that they want to answer, I think is great. But I think the bigger issue is that until the system is fixed, you're going to still see African American males murdered, stopped, discriminated against. It's like I think that there are some people that have a problem with Hillary Clinton as a woman being president of the United States. I think it's a bigger issue of how people think, and I think Martin Luther King's belief of judging people not by the content of not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character is something that our generation has kind of started with, which is why you see a black man in office, but we still have a long way to go.
And we may slide backwards if we're not careful.
That is true.
Say that again.
We may slide backwards, she said.
I said we may slide backwards if we're not careful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about current elections.
Sure.
So everybody vote.
Yes. Friday is the last day to register.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't vote just when Obama was in. Carry that same belief system into the next election, because that next election will decide how our kids live. It ain't about us no more.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Brandon. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank
you. Anyone else have any other questions?
No, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brandon.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.